Hi Tammy, this is Sarah responding to your video that you posted about my post. I think it's really interesting that you actually chose the same chapter as I did um, to talk about power relations because though I thought that chapter 6 was really interesting, talking about power relations, I think I posted on Carly's wall a little bit more about what I thought about that. I do think this chapter 3 speaks more to how people in power, I guess, communicate their power. And, rhetoric has so much to do with how someone comes into power, how they're viewed, how they earn respect in the community. And sorry, my dog is right here. Something interesting you talked about in your post was the idea of acknowledging the other, and you kind of talked about that in your video. But that's also a really important part of rhetoric, is acknowledging that other views exist, and that's also a really important part of power. Because if someone in power, a leader, the executive of a company, if they cannot acknowledge that there are other ways of doing things, or other cultures that have different standards, they're going to have trouble, in their company, in their business, and they have to realize that there are other ways of doing things out there. There are other ways of thinking, other ways of other ethical standards that exist, and they have to decide what works best for their company. And there's not just one way. Sometimes there's trial and error. And so all of that really even goes into rhetoric and the idea of, ethical standards for those in power. It was interesting how you said that you grew up in Christian circles, and how you like that example, because I also too grew up around in Christian circles, and I feel that it's really imperative for the Christian rhetoric that Christians begin to take off that narrow-mindedness and realize that there are other ways of thinking and other ways of doing throughout the whole world, and that we can communicate with those people. We don't have to, stop the discussion or the dialogue just because someone thinks differently than us. And I think that's really important, just for anyone, anyone in power, any religious group, any cultural group. I really like this notion of the other. So those are my thoughts, and sorry my dog is right here the whole time, but it was nice to chat with you. Thanks.